Hi, I'm Tessa Rose Jackson. I'm a film and media composer and I release art and music under the name Mijn. I love collaboration, but I feel like it enriches everything. Everything you do, you'll see from a different perspective because it will be somebody else's perspective will come into the mix. And I used to be really bad at collaboration. I think from a sort of maybe feminist point of view, that I felt like as a woman I had to prove that I could do everything myself and I didn't need anyone. And that's fine. It's a really good thing as a young woman to have proved to everyone, but mostly to yourself. But now that I've done that, I'm really happy I've done that and I can not worry about that anymore and I can just work with everybody. Actually, I feel that people who are very good at collaboration are usually the people that are the most grounded and confident in their own abilities, because that means that you can let go. And you can rely on yourself to be able to recognize when something feels good. There's a sort of calmness that you need to have to be able to collaborate well.
How do you pick the persons to collaborate with? Is there any quality or personality that is important to you to make this work, let's say?
I think there's a few things that I find very important. I gravitate towards storytellers, people that want to explore a story and use a lot of imagination to do that. I love imaginative people that will come up with mad things, preferably things that I couldn't even fathom. With like, what? You want to do what? Fine. That's my favorite thing, people that inspire me. I can't deal with people that have a huge ego problem. I need people that believe only in making the best end result. And doesn't have to do with who thought of what or who did whatever, as long as the end result is the best and the most real and genuine it could be. That should be the end goal. When it comes to songwriting, usually it starts with coffee and talking. I tend to really prefer not to force anything. The whole goal is we'll spend a day in my studio and if we write a song, that's amazing. If it doesn't come out, it doesn't come out. That's also fine. So what I usually do is listen to music with that person. And then usually we just end up talking. I really am a genuinely interested person. So if I ask, how are you and what are you up to? I am genuinely interested. And usually that conversation will last much too long. But the fun thing is that when you actually finally get down to actually writing, I also write really fast. And I like working with people that are also like that sort of bounce ideas quickly and are just like, enthusiasm. I'm addicted to enthusiasm. And the fun thing is that usually you notice that later in the lyrics, you'll have accidentally massaged in all these subjects that you've talked about just randomly. Again, that's that genuineness that I believe in. The song will end up being something to do with where that person is at that day and how that bounces off me. And that's how I think you get the most genuine.
And you work a lot of times with the same person.
Yes.
So you have recurrent partners in crime.
Absolutely.
And is that important for you?
Well, I mean, I have a few very special collaborations in my life. One of which is my actual life partner, Darius. And he's just an extension of me by now. He does mixing and mastering. And the wonderful thing is when I produce somebody else's work, and I suggest that Darius mixes and masters it, that's as close as I can get to mixing and mastering it myself. Like, I know he will do it in exactly the way I would do it if I had that skill set, which I don't, because I don't want to. That's the wonderful thing about collaborations, with finally figuring out the right people that really click and speak your language. My mum is a linguist, and I was kind of raised with this sense of language being a thing. And I see music very much as a language. And not only music, just storytelling in general. David Spearing, the director I work with a lot, Darius and I, and for example, my photographer that I work with a lot, we all speak the same language and we all have different areas of expertise, but the story will end up being cohesive because that language is the same. So yes, I do gravitate. Once I found people that I'm like, oh shit, we very much align.
And Flip too.
Yes.
You already did 3 films for them, I think.
Yeah, I think, is it 2? 2 yeah. and like an episode of something. There are also people that, I'd say they speak a different dialect, but definitely the same language.
But their planet is awesome.
They have their own planet. Yes, no, so I love, once I find that link with somebody, I'm also very loyal in that, because I'll just be like, I want more of that, because that inspires me, and that's the most important thing.
And your collaborations are amazing. I think you are doing now a thing for Orkater.
Nou zal ik jullie eens vertellen over een persoon. Werkte al zijn hele leven voor een hongerloon. Had alles keurig opgespaard. Nu ligt hij treurig opgebaard. Het gaat zoals het gaat.
Speaking of challenges, this was really challenging, because this writing a musical was completely different structure than any other kind of writing music, because we had this meeting with the group, Convoy for Orkater, and we were sort of talking about, like, where do you start? The actors had to build a scene around a song that I hadn't written yet. But at the same time, I had to write a song for a scene that didn't exist yet. So we were both sort of like, who goes first? Where do you go? How do you do this? And it was very interesting. It was highly collaborative. Also, you know, it's very important that in musical, the choreography and the movement of the people on stage is super important. I'm also not singing it. They're singing it. So that has to work for them as well. And on top of that, I usually write in English. Their whole performance is in Dutch. And not only is it in Dutch, it's in incredibly well-spoken, beautifully formed Dutch that my Dutch is fine, but I wouldn't write a Dutch theatre dialogue. So I'm not going to attempt to do that in song, because that's just, why would I do that? They're all brilliant at the Dutch language. Let them do that. We had to figure out this new formula of doing it. So what we did was that we just talked very much about, like, the structure of their story, their arc, and where in the story should be moments for music, for song. So I knew sort of context of, like, well, in this song, basically sort of we go from A to B, and this thing happens in the middle. And we talked about inspirations. The main inspiration for this was, like, the musical cabaret. So, like, this real old school, it's got a 1920s feel, sort of Chicago, that's another one.
Lot of research there.
Yeah, so much research. I love it. Nerd Tessa went mad. So it's all got to do with, like, you don't arrange for a big band. You have, like, a few instruments and a banjo and, like, all these instruments that are very time-based, and they immediately create a time bubble. Those were the inspirations for it, and I would create a sort of very basic demo with placeholder English lyrics. Also because all the references were all English compositions. I've noticed this because I've written stuff in different languages before, French, Italian even sometimes. I don't even speak Italian. The language that you're writing in also very much has an effect on what kind of melody you're going to write, because the words are structured completely differently. And if you try and write in, for example, Italian, you're going to have many more notes, because there's more syllables in Italian. I kind of noticed that, like, I had to write it in English to have a melody that really felt like it was a genuine 1920s in that American style. Because if I were to write a melody in Dutch, it would sound different just because it's a different language. So what we did is that I did that with placeholder English lyrics. And then one of the guys from the ensemble wrote the Dutch lyrics, which were obviously much more in tune to what where the play was going, and so that was a really good way of doing it. And then
even for you to see it later, like, it's a totally different thing that you created, probably.
I know, but this was the great thing. It was highly collaborative, because I had this sort of these basic demos with so much MIDI in it, and I brought it to the rehearsals, and I could notice that the group was also like, okay, well, it sounds a bit shit, and I was like, yes, I know, it won't, but it does, and they were like, okay. And then, you know, they'd rehearse with that, and I'd be watching, and I'd be like, okay, so that bit doesn't work, and that bit needs to change, and we need an extra bar there because she wants to do a dance move, and there's no room for that right now. So you, as a composer, you're really thinking in a different mindset. You're very much facilitating what's happening on stage. And then with the different lyrics and that just, yeah, when it finally did come together, so we kept bouncing off, you know, I'd send new demos, I'd come to the rehearsals, okay, I'd take it back and I'd change it and come back. And then finally when it was all done, to get that proper old school jazz feel, I got a jazz ensemble in the studio. We recorded it all together on these demos that I built, being there in the studio, in the rehearsal space with Convoy. And it was just so fun to see it come together. You had to stay very calm, through the whole process. Just like, okay, this bit doesn't work. We'll change it.
And go in the box.
Yeah.
And do it again.
Yes. And because it was so daunting and it was such a new thing, it was very important that everyone stay calm. Just like, we will figure it out.
It will work in the end.
It will work in the end. It is currently a bit shit. It won't be.
Je bazelt u toch wel het allermeest. Mijn avondwandeling staat mij toch vrij exact voor de geest. Ook moet ik laat nog naar kantoor. Oh nee, dat gaat helaas niet door. U ligt dan al op straat, want voor de avond is verstreken. Bent u al lang bezweken? En dat is zoals het gaat. Zoals het gaat.
I hate to say it, but I think dumb luck. I think it's just dumb luck. An agency will hear a track somehow. Maybe he tuned into the right radio station at the right time, or somebody said something nice about my music, and that's how that happens. I wish there was a more like, because I mean, I'd love to get another gig like that, and
Where are they?
Where are they? I don't know. I think it's all a question of putting a lot of music out, and I do think that the songs that have been synced so far are songs that are inherently, they work with film, probably because I do that trick of writing to film just to stimulate myself. Probably that does help in that they are more syncable. But like I said, I would never believe in writing with that kind of end goal, because I don't believe that will create anything valid. Yeah. But if it does inspire you, it probably can only help.
Yeah. And how did collaboration go? They just ask you for a song? They pick a song that you already... How did it go?
Yeah, so those are syncs. So those existing songs that have just been placed in a series, and you just get this weird golden email where it's just like...
But for you, how did you react to it? Like suddenly it's... I love both series. So.
Yeah, yay. Me too. Well, the funny thing is that when it was synced, when my first song was synced for New Girl, I actually didn't know New Girl yet. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I started watching it because I was like, well, I should probably watch the series. And then it was the best thing I'd ever seen. I was like addicted to that series.
Call me again.
Yeah. No, so I mean, obviously, it's just really fun. Also because it's not about changing anything. It's just literally like,
I like you.
Yeah. Can we use your music? Yes.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget, there's more to watch.